Daytona in the books. Wild weekend, and we can't even end it on a Monday. Can't even really almost end it on a Monday. It ended Tuesday night at 12 a.m. in the morning. Rain soaked out the weekend. We really didn't even race on the weekend. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Welcome to another episode of the Armchair Crew Chief. My name is Jordan. I am joined with my lovely wife, Rebecca. And before we get started, if you guys don't mind, go ahead and like, comment, and share this podcast so we can get it bigger and bigger and hopefully bring some big names on here in the future and a little bit more talking outside of just race results, which I know you guys do like, but try and expand it. So let's go ahead and dive into everything. We're going to go ahead and start off with the truck race because that did run Friday night at its scheduled time. And then we'll go into the whole mishap, craziness of Daytona and rain. So let's go ahead and dive into it with qualifying. Our top 10 qualifying going from 10 to 1st. Thad Moffitt, 10th. Bailey Curry, 9th. Tanner Gray, 8th. Daniel Dye, 7th. Nick Sanchez qualified 6th. Ankrum, 5th. Mills, 4th. Corey LaJoie running the trucks, qualified 3rd. Johnny Sauter, 2nd. And Ty Majeski, 1st. Some of the notables that were not in this part of it: Matt Crafton, 11th. And Stuart Friesen, 17th. Dean Thompson, 15th. Grant Enfinger, 22nd. Christian Eckes, 25th. And just moving on forward. So just running through the whole race, we'll go ahead and talk about our Stage 1 and Stage 2, and then we'll recap a little bit of what we saw and then go on to your Stage winner. So your top 5 out of Stage 1 were Taylor Gray, Tyler Ankrum, Bailey Curry, Ty Majeski, and Johnny Sauter winning the stage. Moving over to Stage 2, we had Ben Rhodes, 5th, Daniel Dye, Matt Crafton, Christian Eckes, and Tyler Ankrum winning the stage. So this race was your usual, I'm going to say your usual, even though I think it was a little bit more hectic, wreckfest that trucks
there was a lot of cautions.
like to put out there.
I think they had a record of most cautions.
So speaking of that, it was a record, 18 cautions. And
surprisingly, though, there was that many. I feel like there was some really good racing, though.
Yeah, see, that's where we differ because I think it was just a total wreck fest, and I know a lot of people were saying the same thing about what an embarrassment this was out there running.
I can see how people can say that because of all the crashes and everything. I think whatever aero package they used for the trucks was terrible because everyone was loose. You could see the air going over and things rippling on all of the trucks. And it was like if you did not hit them square on, somebody's wrecking. I mean, you're off by just a millimeter and someone's wrecking.
But that's how the trucks were last year, too. I mean, it's like if you...
But it's like, I don't think you can change the fact on people of them crashing so much when the air is so bad.
Yeah. That is true. And then to some people saying, if you had somebody like a Kyle Busch or the veterans in there, I still think they're going to wreck.
Oh, yeah, they're definitely going to wreck.
It's there being no, and we say veterans because, I mean, you do have Crafton in there who's been racing this for ages, and, Enfinger in there who's up there. We're talking about, like, Cup Series people out there racing these trucks, which, Kyle Busch used to
dominate.
He dominated, but he always said up and down that the reason I run it is because I'm the only one that can bring money in. Everybody knows trucks is expensive. One, because you're tearing up vehicles left and right, but two, because there's not a lot of money to be made in there. Which, you could blame NASCAR for that and Fox that run all the truck races because they're running them at weird hours and all that.
Yeah.
But there was a ton of wrecks. There was one, the 17 truck got airborne, and I mean they had the big wreck towards the end, and it was nuts. It was The 17, somebody said it was almost like you were skateboarding or something. Tony Hawk, because the way the truck got up and
it went up on
grinded on the other
truck and then slid back down.
Right. So it was wild. That was the last. That was one of the last. I think it was the last caution or second to last caution that was out there that caused that wreck, and it collected everybody. Yeah. And that was one of those. That was actually caused by Raja and Corey LaJoy, but it wasn't so much due to inexperience. It was due to, like what you were saying, with the aero package and just barely clipping somebody.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which that's another story for something to talk about later. We got some information on that. But just going on to the winner, we'll go ahead and give you your top 10. We'll start 10 down to 1. Eckes finished 10th. Brian Dozat finished 9th. Timmy Hill finished 8th. And there was a lot of wrecking. If no disrespect to Timmy, but he doesn't have equipment to run anywhere up near the top. And to see him finish 8th. Matt Crafton 7th. Stephen Parsons 6th. Spencer Boyd 5th. Brett Holmes 4th. Caruth 3rd. Heim 2nd. And our winner, it was Nick Sanchez getting his win.
Very first one.
Yeah, very first Craftsman Truck Series victory of his young career is what they stayed out. So going back into, go ahead.
I just think it was funny because it was his first win, and I don't think he like totally got that he won. He didn't seem very excited. Like, he was happy, but it looked like it didn't sink in that he actually won the race.
And this is a big win too, because he came out and he said, to go in there, he says it's huge. Obviously, we had a new technical partner with Spire, our first race with them. What a better way to start a partnership. His sponsor, Gainbridge, has stuck with him, and they were winless last year. They all deserve it, and they're going to celebrate with me. Going back to with that whole idea of Spire, they talked to Caruth because of what we were talking about with the wreck, and he says he keeps trying to play it back differently, which he needs to not do that. That's going to get you hurt and screw up your career. Mm-hmm. And he just went on to thank Rick Hendrick Cars, who's sponsoring him, and what they said. The thing that kind of set wrong with a lot of people was at the very end, before they talked to Raja. I think it was before they talked to Raja. I could be wrong. It could have been right after.
I think it was right after.
Right after. Bubba Wallace comes up, and he starts talking to Raja. Raja wants to shake his hand and, like, walk away. And Bubba, like, grabs him and pulls him aside away from the cameras and starts talking to him, like, with Bubba's back to the camera so you can't read his lips.
Also, and he had his hoodie up, just looking like, you don't know who I am, really, kind of like trying to...
Yeah, he's trying to be inconspicuous.
Yeah, and it was real odd because he, like, put his hand on his chest and pushed him, like, almost like he was mad at him. Like, it was very strange.
Yeah, it was only... I see the mad part. I think it was more of those, he was trying to stress it, and he's trying to fill a mentor role, which I don't think Raja wants him there. I could be wrong. Could be 100% wrong on that. I think it's more, you got two African American drivers in the sport, and so they think Bubba thinks they should stick together. Which, I mean, Raja has come out and said his favorite driver is like Jimmy Johnson, and he loves Hendrick Motorsports, and I mean that's. As much as I don't like that, at least he's teaming up with somebody that he respects very deeply, and hopefully he can listen, and hopefully Rick Hendrick doesn't screw him up like he likes to do with a lot of his other drivers.
Turn him into little
Which
minions.
Luckily he's with Spire. I mean, Spire has a technical alliance with Hendrick when it comes to engines and so on. Mm-hmm. But that's something to keep an eye on and see how that plays out going forward with Raja and Bubba Wallace, and how that relationship happens, whether it turns for the good, for the bad. I'm neutral on it right now, but there are some tendencies that kind of make me want to lean to it being bad.
I don't really care. It just was very odd to watch it. Like, the body language was very odd. It was like Raja was like done talking to him, and then it was like Bubba was like, I'm not done talking to you, and like shoved him, like, come over here and talk with me, kind of. So that was just very strange right after the race, and like them having the camera on it too. It was very weird.
Right. That so with that being said, we move over to the ARCA race, which the ARCA race was supposed to happen Saturday afternoon, early afternoon, and that got scrapped and pushed back to after the truck race. But with the truck race running so late, I think the truck race ended at like 11 or something like that. ARCA didn't start until like midnight and then ran. So with that being said, I think it was, and we won't go too much into it, there was a lot of controversy in this race. Tony Bredinger came out and she made a comment to the fact of the guy that actually won this race, Gus Dean is his name, that, you know, dad pays his paycheck and he doesn't care about wrecking people, even his teammates, and he doesn't care about being a teammate and racing with everybody else, which, I mean, that's gonna get him here. But I mean, it's ARCA, so he's got to get the money somewhere. So she calls him out for, you know, daddy's paying your way in while I'm trying to work my butt off to get up here. Plus, I'm a female, so I'm behind the 8 ball as well. And, you know, she had some points if you look at everything. Because he did cause some, I think he knocked her out and he knocked a few other people out. Shane Van Gisbergen ran this race. That's pretty controversial as well.
Did he actually run the race?
He did run the race. He got knocked out. He ran 26 laps, it says. And he finished 29th. But that's controversial because when qualifying, he did not qualify for this race.
Yeah.
And rumor has it that, I don't know if it was Trackhouse or it's got to be Trackhouse doing it, not Colleague. SVG's running Xfinity for Colleague, even though he is a Trackhouse driver. We see the same thing with Zane Smith up in the Cup Series running Spire Trackhouse. But he didn't qualify, and the rumor has it that whoever it was, probably Colleague, so they could get him in the car, is what it sounds like. And Matt Colleague, I could see him doing something like this. I'm not going to call him out for it because who knows. But they paid $100,000 for the last team that was, because he just got knocked out by one, for that team to say, oh, we're not going to race.
Yeah.
So SVG got in the race and ran. And he ran like, you know, very little laps.
But he had to run so that he could run Xfinity.
Yes, but no, because NASCAR was bending the rules from what I've heard or what I can gather from it. And they were, oh, well, we saw him qualify. We saw him practice. That's good enough for him to run Xfinity. Which, if that was a female doing it, yeah, or, you know,
like what happened before.
Yeah, with Jen Jo Cobb had this issue. Where
was it Talladega they wouldn't let her run?
It was Daytona too, I think. I think it was Talladega. The one you're thinking about is Talladega. But they wouldn't let Jennifer Jo Cobb run trucks, I think it was. They wouldn't let her run trucks at the Superspeedway because she didn't have enough experience behind the truck for it, which is so stupid. I mean, that you're starting to act like Formula
One. She's been around
One
for a long time.
Yeah. But anyway, so $100,000 goes to that one team. The SVG runs.
They probably like won the race with that.
SVG runs 23 laps out of, you know, Gus Dean 184. But what stole the show, and I think it was Thomas Annunziata. I think it was him, the 44 car. I could be wrong, but I think it was him. They talked to him, and he said, I quote, I'm going to put the pedal to the floor until I see checkers or I see God. And that, you know, if you can't pull any quote out of this weekend, that's one that's just a classic. And it's making the rounds on socials if you haven't seen it. So that was pretty cool, pretty funny to see and hear him say that. But yeah, Gus Dean wins it. Very controversial. People calling him out for how he raced everybody. You know, can't really say too much about it because I was sleeping during that race because it was so stinking late.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
But moving forward with that, Cup Series practice Friday morning or Friday afternoon before trucks got out on the track, and Toyotas, 7 out of the 8 Toyotas, which they ran 20-something plus laps. The other Toyota was Martin Truex Jr., which only ran 4 laps. They went to the top of the leaderboard on speed. Mm-hmm. They surprised everybody, as we talked about in our last podcast, where they look like pure crap.
Yeah.
On single car qualifying, but in the duels they had it. Mm-hmm. So we had that happen. Then we go and we had Xfinity practice on the morning. It was pretty much the morning.
Did they
morning
have practice
afternoon.
or did they have just qualifying?
No, they practiced. They practiced in the beginning because it was supposed to be. They practiced in the morning, and then it was supposed to be Cup Series practice, and then qualifying, and then racing, then ARCA, then Xfinity.
They did get qualifying in, though.
They did get qualifying in, yes. So, watching, and I could be mistaken. This could have been practice on Friday too. I don't remember the time frames of it, but I observed it looked like the cars were running faster. Xfinity cars, single car, not in groups.
Yeah, single car. They definitely looked like they were running.
But they were running.
Faster.
Looking at the speeds, they were still like 2 seconds slower. Like the group pack racing was 2 seconds slower than Cup Series, and I think they were like a second and a half slower single car than Cup Series. But they were real close.
Yeah, they just, I don't know if it's the new body styles of the Cup cars and like the sound was different. They seemed so much slower.
Yeah, they did.
And the Xfinity seemed like it was like a lot faster, but I guess not.
Yeah, Xfinity seemed faster. So moving on, we were going to have the races. They actually postponed Xfinity race to Monday at 11 a.m. and then they were going to run Cup on Sunday. Well, I mean, it rained so much, and I think they got over an inch of rain on Sunday, so they postponed all the races. Then it rained Monday morning, and they had to postpone the Xfinity race to after. Started around 9 o'clock in the evening, at night.
But before all the races even started, there was a crash on the track. 2 jet dryers collided.
Yeah.
So that made an additional mess to clean up.
Well, luckily, I think they were able to get that done quickly. But yeah, and as everybody says, Juan Pablo was driving one of those. That, or he must have had, whenever you feel like somebody's talking about you and their name comes to their head, he could have been sitting somewhere minding his own business, and next thing pops in his head is jet dryer. So, moving on, let's go ahead and talk about. We'll leave the Cup Series race to last, since that's usually the last thing to talk about. So let's go ahead and go into our qualifying for Xfinity Series. Xfinity Series, top 10, starting at 10, going to 1. Alfredo got 10th. Parker Retzlaff, John Hunter Nemechek, 8th. Jeremy Clement, 7th. Allgaier, 6th. SVG, 5th. Parker Kligerman, 4th. Allmendinger, 3rd. Austin Hill, 2nd. Jesse Love, 1st. So RCR took the front row there. Then just going into stage 1, Jesse Love took that stage. He drove.
Yeah, he did all the laps, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, from what I heard. Then Austin Hill got 2nd. Kligerman got 3rd. Anthony Alfredo, 4th. Jeb Burton, 5th. Sheldon Creed, 6th. John Hunter, 7th. AJ Allmendinger, 8th. Allgaier, 9th. And Ryan Truex, 10th. Then moving over into stage 2, we had Austin Hill win that one. Sammy Smith, Sheldon Creed, Cole Custer. 5th was Ryan Sieg. 6th was Ryan Truex. Riley Herbst sitting there at 7th. Allgaier, 8th. 9th was the Dinger. And 10th was Brandon Jones. And just to put this into perspective for the people out there listening, you had AJ Allmendinger, you had Riley Herbst.
Daniel
Suarez was running, and we didn't even mention Suarez in this thing because he actually got taken out. So I'm not even going to include him in this race because
he got taken out pretty early. Yeah,
he got taken out early.
John Hunter Nemechek.
John Hunter Nemechek. Those guys ran both races. They ran the Cup Series and they ran double duty. Ran Cup Series and they ran the Xfinity Series. So, kind of going back into it before we talk about who won, unfortunately, Hailie Deegan got bit by the bug yet again.
Yeah, I was so sad because I wanted to see how she would do in a car because I think she's so much better in a car than the trucks. And she got wrapped up in the Suarez crash, which was only like a few laps in. And she had nowhere to go, and she just ran in the back of him. Right.
And, unfortunately, you had Frankie Muniz, who was running in that race. He finished in the back. There's rumor that he has taking a partial ownership in one of these small teams. I can't remember who it was, if it's the same one he's running or not. It's something with J.J. Yaley, maybe. I don't remember. I don't know the exact details. I just saw that he's buying a partial ownership. So I think he's trying to buy his ride so he can run an Xfinity. Mm. So, but yeah, that was there. A lot of these guys beating and banging, losing tires.
Yeah. John Hunter, too. Oh, good night. I was like, he should have just parked it. He was making mistakes in both races, like bad. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, they had a good amount of cautions.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't have the details on how many cautions there were in that. John Hunter, did cause a lot of wrecks. Allgaier and Cole Custer. It seems like Allgaier was going around all the time, and he did this last year too at Daytona, but he was still in the mix.
Yeah.
Last year,
Austin Hill got in a crash. He got a penalty on pit road.
Yeah, he sent it too hard down. So what they were saying was he came down in third gear instead of second gear. So he had his lights right. And if you guys don't know, they have lights on the cars, or Truck Series has one light. No, because they have digital dash now too. They have lights that go around the tachometer because they don't have speedometers in these cars, and they tell the guys, 9 red here, 6 green, so on, and that's how they know their speeds and their timing lines, so they don't get caught speeding on pit road. Well, Austin Hill had his in third gear, so when his lights lit up, he was going a lot faster than what he should have been going.
And he slid through his box too.
He slid through his box, yep. I think they caught him for speeding, and they caught him for unsafe entry into the pit box.
Yeah.
For that penalty. Mm-hmm. And then he came around because he cut a tire too. He had a flat tire as well, I think like 6 laps after that penalty. So he got caught all in a mess there. So, I don't know. That was interesting. It seemed to be some good racing going through.
Yeah.
Sheldon Creed moving up and down.
Yeah,
he showed some.
I was really rooting for him. I really wanted him to win.
Ryan Truex yet again shows. When you look at the final laps, it does not show it in the results. But he was up there hanging with everybody. He got caught in a wreck. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately with him,
And see, if that last wreck wouldn't have happened too, Sheldon Creed would have had a better chance of winning because they just left it go, and then it was just 2 cars basically out there, and you can't run like
right.
that. You can't
so
catch the person in front of you.
So Sheldon Creed, Austin Hill won the race. This is his 3rd Daytona Xfinity race win in a row. And I should say, what do you wouldn't call it, winter race? I wouldn't call it spring race, first race. But he was out there running, and he was leading. Sheldon Creed was catching, and he had the push from Ryan Truex, I think, and I can't remember who else was up there with them. And they got tied up and tangled up and spun. And so that, Creed lost his drafting help. and it just left him dead in the water.
Yeah.
And Austin Hill just ran away with it.
Yep, he couldn't get up there.
So with that being said, our final our final top 10 for the race, Xfinity race. Austin Hill won it. Sheldon Creed second. Parker Retzlaff third. Jordan Anderson fourth, which, who knows, it looked like he was going to win this race too.
Yeah, it did. He was up there in the beginning of after the caution.
And for those who don't know, Jordan Anderson is the son-in-law of the great crew chief,
Larry Mack.
Larry Mack. Yeah, I lost his name in the back of my head. Larry Mack was actually supposed to be on the pit booth with him, or on the box with him, but he had to go back to do the race because, and these are almost the same exact words I said last night, God forbid Fox leaves their whole crew at the racetrack instead of flying them back, which I think is silly. But anyway, Jordan Anderson fourth, Chandler Smith fifth, Riley Hurst sixth, John Hunter seventh, Justin Allgaier eighth. There he goes again, scoring another top 10 at a super speedway. Brandon Jones, 9th. Almerdinger, 10th. Other notables in there were SVG at 12th. Cole Custer was 13th. Custer led 6 laps.
Which I'm surprised because he got in that crash. He got one of those crashes, and it was bad.
Yeah. Natalie Decker was a big surprise to people.
Yes, she was up in the top.
She led 7 laps.
Yeah.
And she was running,
staying up there for a while.
And she got the luck of the draw though too, because of the the end of the stage. I think she got a caution or something where they were able to pit and keep almost all their track position. But it kind of crapped out on her, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was unfortunate with that. Jesse Love 20th. Truex finished 21st. Sammy Smith 23rd. Parker Kligerman 25th. I think Parker's going to be doing. I think the guys you're going to see up there battling on a consistent basis, or you're going to have Austin Hill up there, Sheldon Creed, Allgaier, and Parker Kligerman. Cole Custer, I think he will be up there.
Probably.
I don't see him winning as much as. I mean, he only won 3 races last year when he won the championship.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Riley Hurst, I think, is a surprise. I say a surprise.
He made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, he made a lot of mistakes last year, and that's why I say.
No, he made a lot of mistakes in the race.
So if he can get his mistakes done, because that's what hurt him last year too. That's why I say he's a surprise, but not really a surprise, because he consistently ran up top, but it was his own mistakes, or the one time it was his team's mistakes that messed him up, and he just he didn't get it going.
Yeah.
So it's one of those that it's like, can he get out of his own way or not? I think Allgaier is going to win it. I was pointing to SVG, which he did decent, but I think Allgaier is going to win championship this year. Going back to some stuff that I was saying,
I don't know
in the beginning.
I don't know. I think Sheldon Creed could get his first win, and he could make a good show of it.
I think he's going to rub it in old RC's face if he gets a championship.
I really hope so. That I wanted him to win so bad. I wanted him to stick it to the man so bad. And he was so close. And that's what just keeps happening to him. And I'm always like, I want him to win.
So, going back to RCR and that stuff. So, in the booth with... I don't know his name that's calling the race, the Rick Allen or the Mike Joy of, I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head, but it's him and Mikey, and usually for a while there they'll put a Cup Series guy in there.
Yeah.
But with Cup Series running right after, they didn't do it, so they threw Andy Petrie in there. If you don't know who Andy Petrie is, we're not talking about his history, because he was with Senior, right? Dale Senior, with some stuff.
I'm not sure.
He's mixed in with a lot of the rich history of NASCAR in the 90s, and early 2000s. I think he was with DEI and did some stuff with either Junior or Senior. But he is an RCR employee. He got into it with Sheldon Creed after Austin Hill did his stupid, and it's still stupid. I don't care. I will tell that to his face how he acted that one race where they were racing with Sheldon Creed. Because it was a clean race, and he goes and makes a donkey of himself.
Yes.
But anyway, so they both yell at Sheldon Creed. Sheldon Creed's like, I can't wait to get out of this RCR. And that should be red flags everywhere for RCR. Anyway,
yes.
So he's up there calling the race. And he's playing favorites, which you can't. I made a comment during the race. It's like, I'm sorry, you're not an RCR employee right now. You're a Fox Sports broadcaster. Do that. Dale Earnhardt Jr. does a good job at that.
Yeah, definitely.
Tony Stewart does a decent job at that. He's not a good broadcaster, but he does a good job at trying to keep things separate.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's what some of these other guys don't do.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't do it. And they called him out on social media saying, they were, patsying for RCR and Austin Hill with Andy Petrie in the booth. And the way Andy Petrie was calling the race, too, it's like...
And I feel like this is kind of how the culture of NASCAR is being lately. It's just like whoever has a lot of money and is putting in it, they're like, oh, everybody is like up their butts.
Michael Jordan's a good example.
Okay, but like the commentator, like everyone, it's like a...
Well, it's been like that for a while.
Everyone has to like... fall all over them, it's really annoying.
Go back 3 years ago, more than 4 years ago, with Jeff Gordon in the booth for as long as he was. He hit it though. I'll give him that he hit it, but at the same
he hit it a little. He hit it, I guess 50-50, I would say.
He hit it, but he's gonna take over Hendrick when Rick Hendrick either dies or says, I'm done with this.
I feel like he's already taking over because the cars are doing exactly what him and Jimmy Johnson used to do on the track.
Rick Hendrick's just putting his name on it and signing the paychecks.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and we'll get in this, we'll leave that for later whenever we go on to that, but that's a good segue over into the Cup Series. Cup Series was a snooze fest.
It was
for the most part.
It was so bad. I think the main thing that really made it bad was they did not divide up the stages well.
Yeah, so the stages were 65, 65, 70.
And then they go around on the caution, so they started with 65 laps. So they were all the same, basically.
That pretty much, that's how it was. So we already talked about the lineup being Logano, McDowell, Reddick, Bell is 1, 2, 3, 4. Elliott was 5th. Cindric 6th. Bowman 7th. Denny Hamlin 8th. Hocevar 9th. John Hunter 10th. Going into stage 1, Chase Elliott won stage 1. Kyle Larson 2nd. Ross Chastain 3rd. Bowman 4th. Byron 5th. Kyle Busch 6th. Denny Hamlin, Bubba, and Martin, and Suarez was your top 10 in stage 1.
Okay, stage 1 was a total crapshoot. There was no passing. They were not going. They were less than 50% throttle.
And before anybody says, well, then why did they change it? Because I know we have some people that are not big in the NASCAR, don't watch this. Well, then how did so and so not win stage 1 if there's no passing? There's still a strategy in the fact that your pit window is 40.
The pitting. The first pit that they did, all of them. They all. It's like none of them knew how to pit at Daytona. Like none of them ever did it before. It was so bad. The on and off was so bad. People were
not
almost
even on and
crashing
off, getting
into
their stalls.
Yeah, people were almost crashing into each other to get into their pit boxes. It was so bad.
You could tell it was the first race of the season. And not even talking about the duels, but a first race in the season with more than 20 cars in it.
Yeah.
Because of how everything was. So everybody went into pit the first time because we had our accident. We had our first accident, which took out Kaz Grala, Carson Hocevar, Harrison Burton. Austin Dillon was involved in it. Michael McDowell, good old 7-time was in it.
Yeah.
Which, you got to learn how to just stop because he stunk it up the rest of the time. Same thing with Austin Dillon. I think Austin Dillon actually came back up.
It's silly for him because I think he just is like, oh, it's the Daytona 500. It's so important, so I need to be in it. But he sucks at super speedway racing. Like, he always has. He's always stunk. And you can say, oh, he won so many. Yeah, and the only way that he won them is by crashing out the whole field and not getting in the crash, and then he would win it. Okay? He was horrible at super speedway racing.
Yeah. So, going back to the whole thing with the stage, pit window's about 40 laps, 40 to 44 laps, I think is what it is, for your fuel window.
Yeah.
So you had this strategy, and that's how people changed it around and got up. Because when we look at the end of stage 2, and you still see the usual suspects up there. You know, you had Blaney took the stage 2, then you had Cindric, Suarez was 3rd, Kyle Busch 4th, Tyler Reddick, William Byron, Bubba Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., AJ Allmendinger, Chris Buescher, 10th. So a lot of the other guys were further back because of the way they pitted.
Yeah.
Taking fuel, whatnot.
And the second stage, like the last 2 laps of the second stage, I would say is when they finally decide they're gonna race.
Well, if you listen to like Eric Jones, it wasn't even that. It was the last 40 laps of the race in total. So
Yeah,
they were running like 50% on 50% in the draft, and a whole bunch of the other guys. So they were talking about it on, and you could see it. It was Jimmy Johnson and somebody else. They were going fast enough at full throttle. They were actually catching the pack, which that doesn't happen at super speedways. The pack will blow away two cars by themselves because they're just, it's the pack racing. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Not this year because of fuel savings. Yeah. In my opinion, they got to get this whole idea of fuel savings out. Whether they readjust the strategy, the stage window, brakes.
They need to readjust the stage brakes. Definitely
make them smaller. Make it 40. Make it whatever, and then make it 80 or something crazy like that.
They need a bigger where they
40, 60, 100. There you go.
Yeah, something like that. They really need it. I feel like the trucks, theirs was the best,
but it was still
broken
small
up
too. Yeah,
but they had so many crashes, so that didn't even really matter.
Yeah.
But looking at the different stages, they had the best broken up. I felt like it was horrible. It was just. That's what it did. So everyone was just like, "Oh, let's just save fuel, fuel."
And listening to Truex on the radio, he was getting frustrated. Not just so much because his spotter, which I don't know what the heck happened there over the off season. His spotter was putting him in bad positions.
Yes.
But he was just sitting there like, "What are we doing? Let's go." And I think a lot more drivers felt that same notion that Truex did. I mean, Eric Jones came out and said, he's like, that was born in, he's like, this is a quality, we're supposed to be putting out a good quality product out there, yet we're just sitting around half throttle for 3/4 of the race, and in the last quarter, we're like, let's hurry up and go.
Yeah.
Fuel savings is killing super speedway racing.
Yes.
We're probably going to see it again this weekend in Atlanta.
I really hope not.
But, going on to that whole idea, so after that race, or after that, we start going around. We had the last set of pits. I think it was going to be the last set of pits before the race if it stayed green. You had like Truex running 8th, Byron, Chastain, LaJoie was doing really good.
Yeah.
Haley was doing really well in a Rick Ware car.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Up there. Before the end of stage 2, after that he got shuffled back. He actually got shuffled back at the end of stage 2 on the results. But like you had Corey LaJoie was hanging with them a lot. And,
oh yes, definitely.
But you had your usual guys that were going up there and making their charge. You had Logano up there. You had Denny up there. The people that if you don't
Logano was stressing me out because he blocks way too much and way too late. He was stressing me out.
Well, and we'll get into that in a little bit on the very last. So there was 2 more big wrecks. One huge wreck collected 18 cars.
It was the 48 doing 48 stuff.
So Alex Bowman
wrecked the whole field.
Yeah, they came up, they went up like they were going to go middle, and they went back down. And when he went back down, he caught hit William Byron. Yeah, he hit William Byron. William Byron came up and then hit Keselowski, spun Keselowski sideways, and collected the whole stinking field.
Yes.
And if you're one of these people out there, which you don't listen to this podcast, blaming it on Ross Chastain, you need to get your head checked.
Yes.
And you need to put your Polish dinner jacket on.
Majorly need to get your head checked.
Because Ross was leading the race at the time.
Yes.
And he is very aggressive, but he had nothing to do with this. This was Bowman, either, maybe Byron checked up and Bowman hit him. This was an HMS thing doing HMS stuff.
Yes, on a super speedway, yes.
Because that, by no means that should have ever happened. And that collected so many stinking people. And the fact that on post-race interviews, both of those guys did not bat an eye or even mention it.
No, they didn't.
So, and everybody's quick to throw shade at Ross Chastain, which we'll get to why they
Chastain, okay, as much as people are saying it was his fault and all this thing, Chastain ran the lead so much cleaner than the other people that they talk about. He did it better than Joey Logano was doing it. He was leading that race very well. He was blocking, but he wasn't blocking too late. There was none of that. He was doing very well.
The thing that they're going to get with Chastain about is what happened at the end of the race. At the end of the race, we had some guys drop down. Mm-hmm. They actually got a tire below the double yellow line. So Chastain saw it. Corey was following with him. Bowman was following with him. They dropped down into that middle lane because they were running that third lane up high. So the guys moved from first lane to like almost no lane. They moved to that second lane, almost first lane. So they're middle bottom of the track. And then they start, we're below the double yellow. We need to come back up. And that's when it happened. Mm-hmm. And people want to blame Chastain for what happened and what did that. Unless your name's Austin Cindric, then you're going to blame Corey LaJoie because that's another story for another time. But
Austin Cindric is just like out
Austin
of his mind.
Cindric can't. He's not that good at these. He got lucky his rookie year winning that race.
But he's also another one of those people that doesn't want other drivers up there. He only wants the people that he usually race with him. And
he's dead set on that stuff because when you go in, it was either in the, I think it was in the duels. Michael McDowell's like, I want to get out of here. I want to get back. Yeah. I want to save. And Cindric's like, no. F you. Mm-hmm. Pretty much. Uh-huh. And he
wouldn't let him go.
I think Cindric gets away with a lot of crap because of Daddy.
Yes.
He's a good road racer. I'm not going to take that away from him. Mm-hmm. But he acts too much like a jerk. Way too much like a jerk.
Yeah.
But with that being said, let's go ahead and go into our race winners here. We're gonna go top 5 because of all the crap that happened in this race.
Okay, but that last caution too, you didn't even get to. They didn't throw the caution. They should have thrown the caution so we'd have a green-white checkered.
Right.
Okay, but it was like Hendrick Driver was out in front for 40 years, and they're like, here you go, Hendrick, you get the win.
Tinfoil hat warning.
No, but seriously, I can almost guarantee it. If Corey was in the lead, they would have hit that caution button before they passed over the line.
And so this is where, and I argued with somebody like this, Keyboard Warrior on NASCAR or on Facebook about this. This is where the inconsistency of NASCAR shows. It's rears its ugly head yet again.
Yes,
it rears its ugly head with rain because we talk about the one that sticks out in my head is when Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. were running away with the field. It's raining. They're saying it's raining, and they don't call it until they both spin out.
Yes.
And then people want to call out Kyle Busch for wrecking or for bumping the pace car. He had every right to do that, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Whether he still should have gotten a slap on the wrist or something for that. Okay, yeah, but he had every right to do it because of how stupid NASCAR was on that. It's a similar idea where you have them spinning. Why the flip do you have green and white checkers if you're not going to use them? Especially in the biggest purse-paying race, your Super Bowl.
Yes.
I mean, this is like watching the stinking...
We're tired of seeing it end on a caution.
We're tired of seeing the Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl and Patrick Mahomes and Mr. Pfizer run around, a.k.a. Travis Kelce. This is Hendrick Motorsports. Hendrick Motorsports equals the Kansas City Chiefs right now.
I mean, we can conspiracy theory all I want, but it's like whenever Hendrick is out there, it's like they give it to him. Okay, they had... What was it, Circuit of America, where they had the rain?
Circuit of America, they had the rain. They gave it to Chase Elliott.
They gave it to Chase Elliott because it was their 500th win.
But last year, going back to Circuit of America, and we're talking about green and white checkers, Reddick had 3 green and white checkers before...
In a row.
Yeah, in a row, that they just kept throwing it.
He won that race 3 times.
So, and this is why this podcast will not get media credentials with NASCAR.
It's really annoying because it's when you watch the race and you see how fast they hit the caution button, like what happened when we were actually at Pocono. It's a person is just spinning on the track and it's caution right away.
Yeah.
We're in the turn, the light's right there.
Yeah.
It was right away.
But
at the end of the race, and they're a half a mile from the finish line, and they don't throw the caution because they're like, oh, you think he's fine, and he wasn't fine, and then they throw the caution after Denny Hamlin goes over, and everyone knows that was a makeup from last year because of the tape issue and him getting disqualified.
Yeah.
And it's just the inconsistencies of during that race, as soon as someone spun, the caution light was out. Someone spins and they don't throw the caution, and then it ends on a caution, and you're like, what was the point of having getting this green white checkered so the fans can be happy and it can finish how it should finish, and they decide not to use it.
Right. So, I mean, if you haven't figured it out yet, a Hendrick Motorsports car won the race. Our top 5 were Bubba Wallace 5th, Corey LaJoie 4th, Seabell 3rd, Bowman 2nd, Byron 1st. This is Hendrick Motorsports' 9th Daytona 500 win, tying them with Petty Enterprises. And, I think you had mentioned something where this was 40 years to the date.
Yeah, it was 40 years to the
date. That the 24 car was in...
Rick Hendrick goes, we couldn't have written a better script. And I'm like...
You can't say that crap.
You just literally just said that.
You can't say that crap on TV.
Yeah, he said that right on TV. This
is like, and I don't want to get political on this podcast. I want to stay away from that. But it's like people that say that, certain political parties say the quiet part out loud. Mm-hmm. Or even just anybody saying the quiet part out loud. That sounds like what Rick Hendrick did. So they interviewed Byron. He's like, I'm just a kid racing on computers and winning the Daytona 500. 26-year-old Byron said, who picked up the 11th Cup Series victory of his career and his second at Daytona. That's probably about 75% of his Cup Series wins have come in the past, year and one season in 1 month because of how many he won. I think he's going to win 10, 15 races, and Rick Hendrick is putting all his chips in that 24 to go out in there and win the championship. Can somebody stop him? I hope so, because I can't stand William Byron. I can't stand Hendrick Motorsports. I used to like him. I can't stand him anymore.
I don't like Hendrick either. I don't like William Byron just for the fact of I call him vanilla. He's so plain. He doesn't have a personality. It's like, I mean, obviously he has a personality, but he doesn't have a personality as a race car driver, like his own kind of thing. It's the Hendrick drivers are like all the same. It's just little minions. They just work for their master, and they can't have a personality almost.
And there's a certain someone that I will call out to his face, and I'm going to call him out here, that he's a bandwagon fan. He's also a Frankie Muniz fan, but he's a bandwagon fan because he just started, he admitted it, he started following William Byron last year.
Because he won a bunch of races.
Mm-hmm. We're going to Atlanta next.
I was so tired of him winning races. It was just like, but it's the same thing. Like, I used to really like Larson, But then that whole thing happened with Larson, and it's like they stifled him. Like, he can't have a personality anymore. And I liked him for his personality. He was he was really good at races. Him and Truex were having that one year was like back and forth, and forth. And he was like, he was crashing himself out because he was getting too close to the wall and different things.
That's
and
Larson doing Larson things.
Right, but I mean, he had a personality and just be like, yeah, I got too close to the wall, hit the wall, you know. He was like, it was fun racing. Now it's like he can't say anything.
So I heard somebody say that Dale Earnhardt Jr. came out and said LaJoie's going to win a race and go to the playoffs. If he keeps running like he did, which... Please, Spire, do something. You got a ton of money to throw Zane Smith in that car, that the 71 car. Spend it and put it Corey LaJoie. And for everybody that wants to crap all on Corey LaJoie, the dude went out there and ran clean up top for a ton of the race.
Yes.
The dude's got it. I mean, he's got the pedigree coming from his dad, Randy. He
did a great job in the trucks, too.
People want to forget, though, too, because you say, yeah, he did a good job in truck race. But I'm going back to history. People forget that he was whipping the likes of Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, and all that. Yeah. And he decided to go a different path. Yeah. And then he had to grind his way back up.
Yeah.
So that dude can race, whether you like it or not. And, you know, more props to him for doing it with a smaller team.
And he has a freaking personality. Like, get some drivers with personality. Come on.
So, with that being said, too, what we were talking about, Cindric came out and made a comment pretty much blaming LaJoie for taking him out because he was like, oh, Corey LaJoie tried to fit himself in there when there wasn't a spot. I mean, you know, and then it's racing, but, you know, he's got to... So they talked to LaJoie about it. And first of all, he's like, you know, it sucks the wreck and all that. We're trying our best. We put ourselves in a position to win this race. And couldn't ask for anything better. Same thing Chastain was saying. He's like, I can sleep at night because I made a chance for this race. So then Bob Pockrass goes and asks him about Cindric calling him out on his racing. He's like, well, you know, he's done some pretty dumb stuff too.
It was the last lap of the race.
Yeah, and we're not friends. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And so many people support Corey LaJoie. You know, if you haven't, for people that are new to this podcast, we try to stay unbiased, but we are
slightly biased because we don't like Hendrick.
Yes, but when it comes to a majority of the drivers, we are Martin Truex Jr. fans. We are Corey LaJoie fans. We are Blaney fans. And this isn't bandwagon Blaney fans. This is, you know, Blaney back with Wood Brothers fans.
Yes.
And so, you know, we have our things. We're starting to, we dislike Kyle Busch for the longest time. Now we're starting to like him.
I don't know that I'd say
I'm starting to like
him.
Okay. Well, then I'm starting to like him because he's not becoming much of a donkey anymore.
Yes, he's definitely
it's like
matured.
It's like Kevin Harvick. He's Kevin Harvick when he was racing, minus the fight that he got with Chase Elliott in 2020. I think it was 2020, when we had the whole, you know, Happy New Year, Merry Off Season comment. He toned himself down with getting older.
Yes,
and I think that's because he saw himself in his son. But that's anyway. I digress. Anyway,
I really enjoy racing. I like a lot of different drivers. There's just certain ones I don't like. Like, I do not like Austin Dillon. I don't think Austin Dillon is a good race car driver. The only way he can win is if it rains or he wrecks someone out.
The only reason Austin Dillon is in a car is because RC is grandpa.
Yeah. I mean, he literally, like... You better hope that he's not behind you on the last lap because he will crash you out.
Corey LaJoie, Atlanta, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, enjoy racing, and that's the frustrating part about watching it on TV is because TV picks their favorites to show.
Yes.
They show the leaders, but then they show their favorites.
And that was the thing. That really annoyed me, too, because they talk... You know, they talked to William Byron because he won, and then they talked to Bowman because he came in second, which Bowman's only came in second because he crashed the field twice. And then they go Chase Elliott, who came in 14th. I'm like, why did we not talk to Seabell or Corey LaJoie?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially Corey LaJoie, because he came in fourth, and he's been hustling. He's really been working his way up into that, and it's just like there's so much pushback. It's like they only want their drivers that they want up there, and if somebody else comes up there, it's no.
Plus, he's got
I don't like that at all.
Plus, he's got a pretty kick butt podcast, Stacking Pennies.
He does, and I really like his Chili's car.
Yeah, the Chili's car was pretty awesome.
It was.
Especially when you put margaritas in the gas can, in the commercial.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are moving on to Atlanta, our next race, super speedway race, reconfigured Atlanta. More spicy, more interesting. We'll see what happens going through there. Our weekend schedule is going to be, starting with Friday, we have qualifying with trucks on FS1. We have Xfinity qualifying at 4:30. So trucks start at 3 Eastern. Xfinity qualifying is going to be at 4:30 Eastern, FS1. And I believe it's going to be MRN and Sirius XM for radio broadcast for everything. Then we go into Saturday. We got Cup qualifying at 11:30 a.m. Our truck race will be at 2 p.m. Eastern. Xfinity race will be at 5 p.m., all on FS1. And then we move over into Sunday. And Sunday will be 3 p.m., so probably starting at 3:30, and that's going to be on Fox in the afternoon. Forecast is looking like no rain, so hopefully we'll get it in on the weekend, and not another Sunday race. I feel like the
Fox coverage is just not very good, and we have like 8 million commercials. And
that's another point of frustration. And I know Mike Joy has come out and said some stuff about it. But there's been a lot of commercials during the race, and it's during the beginning of the race, and during the middle of the race, and then they go side by side. But another thing that's frustrating is because they want to get everything in and repeat it because they missed the pre-race show, which the pre-race show was on anyway on Sunday. They replay a lot of this under the helmet stuff and nonsense and things like the whole Daniel Suarez versus SVG mini golf. We want to put that in the big screen
4 times.
So, I'm sorry, Mike Joy, I don't like that. You got to make your money, but at the same time, you guys are talking about streaming services, NASCAR as a whole. Put it out on a streaming service, charge an X amount of money for it, and make it just 100% race coverage. You don't have to have a broadcaster broadcasting the entire time. Let them go on commercial break because, they got to get water, they got to do whatever. But keep the race up going. I mean, you get away with it with the app, but the app's off sync from your TV because your TV is always going to have a delay. So anyway, we're going into Atlanta. Do you have any winners you think are going to happen for Cup Series or Xfinity Series? We won't even cover truck because truck's too iffy.
I'd have a better idea of who if they would have actually raced the Daytona 500. They did not race. And I really hope that Atlanta's not like that either. Like, let's save gas. It's stupid.
Well, luckily it's a smaller track, so they probably won't have to do that much of that.
Hopefully. I don't know. I just, I can't think, who I think is going to stand out. I mean, Corey is really good at Atlanta. Yeah. And it would be nice for him to win. The
Fords are pretty good at Atlanta, too.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I can go Seabell again. I picked Seabell for...
Yeah. So we'll see what happens going on. We will see you guys Wednesday after the race in Atlanta, barring any crazy rain. And we'll see you guys next week. Hope you have a great weekend. And please don't forget to like, comment, and share this podcast. Have a great one, guys.
Bye-bye.